As you guys pretty well know by now, one of the main core mechanics of Europa Universalis has been the power generation, or mana points as it's more colloquially known. Well, within EU5 or Project Caesar, we have a brand new system, the Cabinet, and today we have our very first sneak peek into how exactly the Cabinet actually works, with Johan giving us as much as we need to know for the time being, with more to follow afterwards. Also guys, don't forget, if you enjoy these kind of videos, let me know what type of other videos you like me to do when it comes to EU5, and don't forget to also subscribe. Would encourage me to keep on doing what I love doing, and let me know that I'm actually doing it right, and you know, I'm not just being that annoying guy that makes 1,000 EU5 videos. I mean, I know I am that guy, but I hope that you enjoy me being that guy though. Alright, so now this came out a few minutes ago. It was about an hour delayed because I believe Johan had some issues with his computer. He didn't have internet or something of the sorts. Whatever the case, they were fast at work and managed to fix the situation. So now we have Tinto Talk 16. Johan wishes us a happy Wednesday, and he says that we're going to talk about a new, more or less unique system, the Cabinet, which is one of the core functionalities in the game, covering areas that in previous games were handled by the envoys or mana. So there you go, even he calls it mana. I should stop even calling it power. I don't think anyone actually calls it power points, do they? I highly doubt that. Or may not have scaled nicely. So he does say that mana and envoys were not as scale friendly as the Cabinet apparently is going to be in EU5. In Project Caesar, it is a core part of many aspects of the game. He also mentions last week we talked about the characters and we inferred roles like generals, admirals, rulers, and regents. We also mentioned there's two roles which we're not ready to talk about, and being in a Cabinet, whilst being a good use of a character, it is not one of those roles, so you still have two things to look forward regarding characters. So those two other roles that your characters will be able to fulfill are not within the Cabinet. So these are separate characters within the Cabinet itself. This is basically, from what I gather here, more of a system similar to EU3, where you had advisors in like a bigger pool and you recruited them with different particular roles that they had fulfilled, and different modifiers. I'm going to take a bigger look at the particular screen here first and foremost. So this is obviously the English royal court. We have the government up top. I'm not 100% sure what the three icons at the top actually mean. Obviously this is some sort of royal crown, so maybe it means that it's a kingdom of sorts. This has something to do with territories, and this three I have no idea. It might be a placeholder. Now we have King Edward III Plantagenet. We got the character himself. I'm not sure if this is static or if the character actually moves around like it does in CK3. I really don't know, obviously, since this is just a screenshot, but I do suspect that he might be moving around based on the spot in which he's framed right now. Now we got the flag of the English. We have the religion, which is Catholic. We got the court in the background. We have the heir, I would assume, which is an 8-year-old. Now, if my memory serves me right, this 8-year-old heir should be Edward the Black Prince, which technically never became the King of England. After Edward III died, it was Richard II, the son of the Black Prince, that actually became the next king. So this makes sense because he was born in 1330, so roughly 7 or 8 years old he should be, I guess. Now we have the skills of Edward III, which is 70 admin, 60 diplo, and 90 military or martial. We have here some sort of calendar, which I am assuming means like some sort of historical dates or something of the sort that might have happened. Then we have the two rings, which would signify his spouse. The horse, the crown, I don't know what it means. This looks a little bit like the splendor as well. I don't know what that is for. Now we do have 5 different tabs here, and this is the first that we see these different tabs. We got the estate, the parliament, the cabinet, politics, which is interesting to see, and values. Now, if these are all the actual tabs that are so far for the time being scripted, then that's not a lot. That tells me the game is very far from actually being released. But I'm also assuming that these are just tabs pertaining to the government in one way or another. There you go, since at the top we have the government, so we actually have different other main tabs as we have in EU4, and then there's smaller mini tabs with all the bigger ones. So we have like government, we have economy, all of these big tabs, which makes sense, right? Because we did see an economic tab earlier, so that's not shown here, which obviously means that that's a separate tab onto itself. And then these are the sub tabs, I guess would be best to call them, including the cabinet. We have a cabinet efficiency, which is plus 10.12%. And we have a cabinet size of 2. We got Mr. Sir Robert of Artois and Sir Ralph Neville, 49, 42. We got their own individual skills. Robert of Artois is increasing control in Cambridge, plus 41.02%. Average control is 55%. And this guy is pacifying Cornwall. Average pop satisfaction in Cornwall is 45%. So clearly, the cabinet members that you have, you will be able to assign to various tasks around your kingdom, such as increasing control, pacifying regions. Pacifying, I would assume, is in one way or another making sure that you don't get revolts in that particular area, and control is basically, as we found out with the previous dev diary, the better version of autonomy, essentially, right? More control means you get more out of that particular province, less you get less out of that particular province. So it's autonomy reversed, essentially. Now, that being said, we also realize that they have different ethnic backgrounds. So Ralph Neville clearly is English, but the other guy is some sort of French or maybe Wallonian or something of the sorts. That's why we also have this little remark here. Can you trust Sir Robert? Can we trust the French? Clearly, they're part of our country, right? The size of your cabinet varies depending on several factors. The most important, though, is how advanced your country is. At the start of the game, most countries will have a cabinet size of 2, while every age will add at least 1. Some government reform or laws may also grant a bigger cabinet size for some other drawbacks. Now, guys, you probably realize that these guys are going to have a lot of other things they're going to need to be doing aside from increasing control and pacifying. And I'm kind of convinced now that the other two things you can do with your characters are going to be assign them as your head priest or something of the sorts, which will allow you to convert provinces. And the other guy, I don't know, something similar in a way, I guess, maybe a spy master or something of the sort, which allows you to do maybe, I don't know, diplomatics, albeit you probably can do diplomatics with your cabinet itself, right? Who you pick for your cabinet matters, as well as each member from an estate gives 10% power to that estate. And it may not always be ideal to have a cabinet member of the wrong religion or bad culture, no matter how great they are. One example includes the fact that the Pope might be upset if you employ a heretic as a Catholic ruler. Wow. Okay, so that means we might get our population upset with us if we employ a French cabinet member like Monsieur Robert of Artois. That's just an assumption, by the way. I don't know if the population actually has a say in that. We just know right now that the Pope does. There are currently 45 different actions that can be assigned to a cabinet position. What the schnaps? 45 different actions. Oh my god, dude. And more are added as the game develops. Some of these are always available. Some require more advanced and some are unique that only a few have access to. Each action belongs to one of 3 categories: admin, diplomatic, or military. So that's basically a means of replacing the old mana structures, which determines which attribute is used for it. So I'm assuming that if you do, for example, counter espionage, which as you can see here has diplomatic, the diplomatic skill of your particular cabinet member is going to give you more or less of a bonus towards doing that particular action. Now let's take a little bit of a deeper look at these. So counter espionage, you get counter espionage plus 50%. Develop province monthly development plus 0.01. Whoa. So in a year you would get 0.12 essentially. So to get 1 development, you would need to keep that guy in there for 10 years, and that's just for, okay, that means playing toll is likely not going to be a thing in EU5. It's going to be really hard to play toll if that's the case, unless there's other ways of increasing development or increasing the amount of development that you get significantly as you progress in the campaign, I guess. Also, this is the first time that we have confirmation that we will have a development system alongside a population system, so that's pretty cool to see. Diplomatic endeavor, increase relations, diplomatic reputation plus 2 flat, encourage migration, pop migration speed 50%, migration attraction 1 flat, expel people, allow people to migrate, migration attraction -2, migration speed plus 50%. So I guess migration speed plus 50 or whatever is migration within or outside of your country. So the speed itself can be a good or a bad thing depending on whether you want to bring in or you want to kick out people from your country then. Also, increased control, you have monthly and max control plus 25. So does that mean that monthly control will start to double up until it reaches a maximum of 25% control and then it just stays at that particular percentage? I'm not sure. Does it also disappear when you take the cabinet member out of there, or does it remain within that province? I have so many questions I wish I had the answer to right now. What do you guys think about it? Increasing control in a single province may be good, but it's a single province. That's a good point. Also, there's going to be buildings that increase control, right? So you might as well just build that instead of using your cabinet member to do it. How efficient is a cabinet action then? The relevant attribute from the ruler and the cabinet members have a big impact, but your societal values, laws, reforms, and even some privileges and affected, not to mention your crown power. Okay, so this is one of the first thing that we see detailing how crown power is going to have an impact in the game. So we have here the example for effective skill of expelling pops from Uppland, cabinet efficiency 33 from King Magnus's own diplo skills, conciliatory, I'm assuming is some sort of modifier, royal marriage rights, some sort of privilege or something of the sort. Crown power is reduced because I guess Magnus doesn't have that much crown power. 50 from Knut av Aspenas, that is going to be a cabinet member, I'm assuming, and that is the cabinet member's amount of diplo power points. With the total of 30%, we gain the following effect. So we saw earlier that the migration effect was 2 flat and 50% speed, so 30% increase equals 2.6, so we get a 0.6 migration attraction minus, so we are able to kick people out a little bit faster, and the speed at which they get kicked out is also increased by 15.05% because of the 30% multiplier that we have from all of the above mentioned. If you want people to leave Stockholm, winter is not enough. Okay, well, it seems like it was enough for the Tinto team, am I right? Is that why you left for Barcelona, for the worm? I can only imagine the development team being like, yes, we need to start a new development studio, but I think it's best to make it in Barcelona next to that beach for extra good Wi-Fi. Next week, we're gonna learn more about the pops, how they function, migration growth, and how they change and what they need. So that's pretty cool. Now, let's go in to see what Johan has leaked for us from all the replies that he's been answering. So apparently there's going to be around 8 to 10 maximum cabinet members. Obviously this is not final. This is the current amount that they think they're going to have. That might be balanced based off of playing the game, adding new mechanics, and seeing if you need more cabinet members to cope with the new mechanics that they will be adding before the game gets released. It is not an automated feature, the cabinet. That's good, because personally I'm not a big fan of automation in a grand strategy game. The moment that you automate certain things, it kind of just feels like I'm clicking a button to automate it instead of actually thinking about it and getting my brain going and realizing what's the best approach in using this particular mechanic. No, I'm just clicking a button, now it's done by itself. Then what's the point of it? Might as well just not have it represented, right? Will there be an option to hide characters? That's a weird question. Well, obviously you don't want to hide characters, right? No option of executing cabinet members. What is the maximum number of cabinet positions you can get? Is it hard cap? Again, 8 to 10. Can we expel people from certain areas or invite migration from specific areas, or is it a blanket thing? Those are per province. If you get the effect of certain tasks immediately, what's to stop someone from grabbing the modifier, completing what they need to do, then switching to something else? Not all cabinet actions are instant in impact. Many take a while to be effective. I think that's a reference to this that we saw earlier, namely the max control and monthly control. So it's going to take up to 25 months to get up to max control, I would assume, with that particular action. Is there cost to removing a cabinet minister, or can there be situations where they are forced to keep one? It costs to assign a new character. Okay, that makes sense, just like EU4. And it costs stability to replace a character. Oh, wow. Okay. So the impact of replacing a cabinet is actually a big impact. It's not just a matter of finances. You pick your cabinet members from eligible characters. If busy with other things, they cannot, and some estates may be blocked from cabinets depending on X or Y. Since there's 45 actions, can cabinet members work on multiple at once? That's a really good question, actually, Supreme Turtle. Not all are things you'd pick, and over 50% you will not see, as they are tag, culture, reform, and religion specific. Oh, okay, interesting. Culture specific. So I'm assuming the cabinet members are going to be the one in charge of culturally converting areas. Oh man, I'm getting the vibe that there's getting a world conquest and culture converting the whole world is going to be literally impossible in EU5. I'm generally getting the vibe that EU5 is going to be very, very limited in achieving a global sort of hegemony compared to how EU4 is, at least for the time being. Maybe we're going to see some mechanics that allow this sort of expansion in the late game. Oh, that's a good question. Is 8 the number of members your dynasty, your current dynasty alive, and is the small child above the heir. 8 is how many eligible characters that can inherit the throne with the current inheritance laws. So I was wrong. Okay, so that means that's not the age of this child. That's just the one next in line, and there's 7 other after him, which makes sense because he was born in 1330, so he would be 7 years old. Edward the Black Prince. Is it just me, or Tinto talks are progressively shorter each week? I thought the bigger screenshot would hold lots of you to analyze and find out from. You mean this screenshot? What do you mean? What is there to analyze here? There's literally like just 5 dudes in the cabinet talking amongst them. That's it. Am I getting trolled by Johan here? Oh, that's a new mechanic he leaked. So this guy asks, will we be able to improve with the maximum of 2 countries at once at the start of the game? And he says no. That depends on the size of your diplomatic corps. If you use a cabinet on this, you will be more efficient. Interesting. So you have a separate mechanic that is a diplomatic corps, which allows you to interact with other countries. Maybe that's the one of the 2 different things you can assign characters for, right? He mentions that development is a value in a location between 0 and 100% and can increase over time if you build buildings, have high prosperity in a location. Venice is 40% at the start of the game, with Ishula at 1%. Okay, that sounds very Swedish to me. I don't know where the hell that is, but yeah. Interesting. So 40% in Venice. What is Constantinople going to be, like 50% maybe? He confirms that characters can only have 1 role at a time. Says it's not an RPG, so yeah, not too much focus on characters, obviously, and no pop relation. What made you guys decide to start the game with 2 cabinet members? And he says it felt good. I don't know, man. I feel like 3 cabinet members would be a little bit better, considering that you're gonna have a lot of things you're gonna be able to use them for. And sure, 2 cabinet members is probably gonna be perfect for smaller nations, but for the bigger nations, 2 might be a little bit restrictive. I don't know. Maybe great powers can have 1 extra cabinet member slot. Who's to say, right? I don't know. Would be nice to see. We also got a special building Saturday, the coastal fort that was illustrated. Now this offers maritime presence, hostile disembarkment time modifier, hostile naval attrition as well, and it does cost a little bit of stuff to maintain, including guns and cannons. So this is a confirmation that guns and cannons have already been split into 2 separate trade goods, and you're gonna need probably guns to hire soldiers that require guns, and cannons for soldiers that require cannons, right? Artillery pieces. On the 4th of June, we also got some feedback that we have achieved as a community. I want to give you guys a big thank you for that, because without all of you going on the forums and letting them know, and also commenting on my videos and other creator videos that are covering this, they wouldn't know what the community wants. So there's been some changes. For example, they've split guns to firearms and cannons, as we saw in the picture earlier, added a demi estate, and here's some of the more recent changes. We see the diplomatic relations, diplomatic capacity. So Kingdom of France starts with an 8.61 diplomatic capacity, and these are the starting diplomatic things. Flanders is a vassal, alliance with Aragon. Brittany is a vassal, alliance with Milan, guaranteeing Scotland. A lot of smaller vassals. So I guess the amount of diplomatic capacity taken up by vassals depends on the size of the vassal, with the smaller ones, like the minimum amount of capacity would probably be 0.25 for the really small ones, and then you work your way from 0.25 upwards. This is the diplomatic capacity maximum. Base values to outward, kingdom rank, French tradition, and is a great power, so we know that great powers get +2 diplomatic capacity as well. And apparently membership in some international organizations will count as cost some diplomatic capacity, while the power of your allies determines that particular cost. So essentially it's now diplomatic capacity, not diplo relation slot. We also see a new social class, the tribesmen. They are part of the lower class, and they can be promoted to peasants if location can support more than one of those types. A new tribes estate as well. This is the base tax, satisfaction, equilibrium, and everything. They also redid the coastline of Tinto Maps 1, and they've also changed stuff with the Tinto Maps 2, actually, for that matter. I'm very much so surprised to see this. They really are listening to us, and I really appreciate that. It shows that Johan and the development team in Paradox Tinto really wants this game to be the best it can be. Look how beautiful this map is right now. If anything, the more historical a map gets, the better better it gets, in my opinion. This is the cannon maker as well. We got a few methods for barrel methods, ammunition methods as well, masonry and lumber to build, and then you need various raw materials to actually get the cannons built and the ammo done. This is also the Tinto Maps 2 changes. Lots of new locations added. Aragon's got 22. Castile has 62 locations added. A few more for Portugal, Navarra, Mallorca, and so on. Several wastelands were added. A lot of changes for raw goods, religion, culture, and so on. This is what it looks like now for locations, provinces, topographic and vegetation map mode, and the big one is the culture map mode. That is a lot of changes. Holy snaps. Okay, there's an increase from what I can tell here in the Muslim populations, especially in Aragon. There's a lot more now, like a lot more, and I can see some of the wastelands around the center as well now. Plus, look at this. So we've got two alternatives, right? Possible alternatives for the dynasties. We've got the Arago and Ivre, but we also have the actual historical name. So clearly everybody knows that de Barcelona was the dynasty of the Aragonese crown at the time, but de Arago was like a colloquial, locally defined dynasty name to give more legitimacy for being the leaders of Aragon rather than using the Barcelona, right? Even though they were the Barcelona. And the same goes here for Ivre or Borgoña. Curious what you guys think about these changes. Do you prefer the historical dynasty name as we know it today, or do you prefer the one that they actually were referred to by the local populations at the time when addressing the particular dynasties? Because I'm a little bit torn about this myself, to be honest. I'm not sure which one would be the best from a historical point of view and also from immersiveness point of view, right? Now, obviously, there is a little bit of a delay between when they receive the feedback for these particular dev diaries and then when they implement it, but they do implement it, so that's a big deal. So thank you guys for watching my videos. Thank you for checking the dev diaries themselves and for giving your honest opinion and for just helping out make this game amazing the way it's supposed to be. I really appreciate it. I'm sure that Tinto development team also appreciates it. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.